Previously, on the Crazy Train.
All right, Pootie. Nice.
A trusted friend from church embezzles the Judds' money in a fraudulent business deal.
I had been duped.
A bishop at church repeatedly breaks confidence and spreads rumors about the Judds' oldest daughter, Tia.
Logan Shepard was actually part of the problem.
A predatory neighbor takes advantage of Tia's suicidal state and hides her for 2 weeks.
This is textbook grooming behavior.
Caleb gets put on probation for trying to rescue Tia from the neighbor.
And I felt very proud of my son because we had always said, your job is to protect your sister.
And Fontaine gets wrongfully convicted.
The judge withheld defense of others from the jury.
The Judds have their daughter taken away by CPS.
I felt scared all the time of who was at the door and what were they going to do.
Caleb prepares to serve a full-time mission.
Even as a first grader, Caleb was being a missionary.
But when Caleb breaks up with his girlfriend Laura, her mother gets mad.
She said she wasn't able to eat or sleep because of how angry she was.
The Judds learn about damaging gossip coming from the Brown family.
Laura's younger sister, Sarah, had begun spreading rumors.
Meanwhile, a classmate steals Caleb's identity to create fake social media accounts and solicit sexual favors.
So what are you doing today?
We're making lacto-fermented cucumbers with our own cucumbers with some of our own basil.
Towards the end of the summer, Sondra Brown texted saying she had a bunch of clothes she needed to get rid of and asked if the Judds wanted them.
I said before I accepted the clothes, I wanted to talk first and straighten some things out. And Sondra said she did not want to talk. She said she just wanted to get rid of the clothes. And did I want them? Yes or no?
Hannah wanted to discuss some of the problems, but Sondra never came over.
Fine. I'm putting in the salt water. And what it does is it makes sure that the bad bacteria doesn't grow in.
As soon as all the cucumbers are all the way covered, you're good.
A couple of weeks later, Sarah Brown got called to be in the new Young Women Leadership Group at church, and Hannah was concerned.
I told Bishop Holt that Sarah Brown was spreading rumors about my son, and it would probably be appropriate to have that cleared up before she was given a leadership position. Bishop Holt said, well, I haven't heard anything, and Caleb doesn't even live here anymore, and Laura Brown just got married. So really, I think the best thing to do is just drop it, just let it go. So I said, fair enough, okay. And so that's what I did. I dropped it.
The Judds hoped that by following the bishop's counsel, the rumors would go away on their own.
Okay, what we're going to do is I'm going to say it once, and then I'll say it with you, but you're going to repeat after me. So it's going to go A, B, C, D, E, F, J.
F, J. A, B, C, D, E, F, J.
He looks naked. In his little loincloth, his flesh-colored loincloth.
Is it way in there?
It's not bad. I think I can just pull it out.
Sassy, hold hands. See who this is.
No, who that?
Hey.
Okay,
Oh, it's already out.
that's bad then.
Okay,
That was
okay.
in there quite a ways.
Oh dear.
Oh, dang.
But she is up on her tetanus. Okay.
On November 14th, the Judds went to the hospital for the scheduled induction to have the baby twins delivered. Around 5 in the morning, Hannah suddenly felt a sharp pain.
I paged my nurse telling her that my water had broke. I couldn't see what was going on, but I was surprised at how much water kept coming out.
A nurse entered the room and realized it wasn't Hannah's water that broke. Hannah was bleeding profusely.
The two nurses frantically were disconnecting me and trying to get my bed out of the room, and I could tell my nurse was scared because she kept crashing into the wall.
There was so much blood it was dripping off the bed and left a trail all the way to the operating room. Hannah knew from talking to her dad years prior exactly what was happening. It was placental abruption, where the placenta disconnects before the baby is born. The baby stops getting oxygen, and the mother, who now has open arteries, loses a tremendous amount of blood very quickly. Hannah's father explained when that happens in the hospital, there is so much blood, the room looks like a murder scene. The doctor has less than 10 minutes to get the baby out before brain damage and death occur, and sometimes the mother can die too.
Even though no one there told me, I knew what was happening, and I was scared.
The team of doctors and nurses worked quickly. As soon as Hannah was under, the doctor delivered the 2 babies via C-section, first a baby boy and then a baby girl. The baby boy was over 8 pounds and the baby girl was over 7 pounds.
Aww.
She is so tiny.
Aww.
They were quite large for twins.
Mom, you look so thin. Hi, I'm home. Oh, you can't touch me, but I love you guys.
Mom, you're tiny.
Here are the babies.
She'll be able to get up.
Royal, who is that?
Chandler Duke. Dad, where's Caleb?
He's gonna be here soon.
In January 2021, Caleb found a job selling solar. It was in LA with his friend Hans. Caleb stopped in Sacramento to pick up his car en route to LA.
Okay, he's got to meet the new babies. Ready? Hold up. This is Chandler.
Hey.
And this is Beverly here. Put Beverly here.
Why is she so much smaller than him?
Yeah, he's drawing it. He just
eats. She just cries.
They used to be the same size.
Aww. 2 little babies.
And just so you know, this is exactly how you looked when you
Dude,
were a
that is you, Moose. That is totally you.
Yes, it is.
Right around that time, the Judd's lawyer Isaac Choi contacted Fontaine and informed him that his appeal had been denied. He stated there was no explanation provided by the Courts of Appeal, so the Judds opted to appeal to the Supreme Court of California. The cost was another $3,500.
I didn't even pretend to understand the appeal process. That's why I hired a lawyer. But in my mind, it was really simple. The judge denied me the defense of others, and that was wrong. So reverse the decision, restore my rights, amend the record, and we're done. I didn't understand why this was so hard to do.
All right, Ruby, tell me what just happened.
I took my permit test and I passed first try. Able to carry 80 cars. Wow. And that never broke.
So all the pressure
In February 2021, Tia informed her parents that she had decided she was going to serve a full-time mission, and the Judds were very excited for her.
She had originally started high school with the intent to be a missionary, but when the whole Jacob Richards thing went down and then Logan Shepard did his thing, it all but destroyed her faith. And I know it had been an uphill battle for her. And so for her to say that she was even considering a mission, that was a big deal.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Oh, sucking her thumb. Oh, wait.
Around that time, COVID restrictions began to ease up in California, and church congregations could resume meeting together.
We would like to welcome all those in attendance today.
The Judds started attending in-person church again, but after attending for only a couple of weeks, Fontaine pointed out that there seemed to be a negative vibe there.
I would try to strike up a conversation with people and they would just ignore me or walk away or find an excuse to leave.
The youth group wasn't being kind anymore. They would exclude our kids from conversations and activities, and my kids would only find out about events and outings after the fact. We finally came to the conclusion that there had to be some sort of gossip floating around. It reminded us of the vibe in the Orangevale ward right before we had to leave it.
Then, that Wednesday evening, the Judds got a call from their daughter Tia.
She was fuming. She told us that Caleb had called her completely devastated. Caleb was somewhat aware that Laura's younger sister Sarah had been spreading mean rumors about him, but he didn't know that the rumors were this bad.
Tia explained that she had found out there was a rumor circulating that Caleb had assaulted Laura Brown while they were dating. Tia contacted Laura directly. "Hey Laura, I would like to talk about something kinda serious. It's about when my brother Caleb and you dated. I keep hearing rumors that you've started that he assaulted you. He says that's not true, and quite frankly, I believe him. Please stop spreading that around. Reputation is extremely important, and something like that is very damaging. Thank you for understanding. I hope you're doing well." Instead of an understanding reply, Laura's husband, who Tia had never met before, replied back, "This is Laura's husband. Laura isn't a liar, but your brother is. You and your family is crazy. Please stop talking to Laura. I'm blocking you for Laura."
When my husband and I heard this, we were like, okay, so it's not our imagination. There is gossip going on about our family right now.
I thought Laura's husband calling Caleb a liar and then saying Tia and our entire family was crazy, that just wasn't very kind, especially since we didn't even know him. But then it got me wondering, why would he think that, let alone say that with such confidence? He must have heard it from somewhere, because that's how rumors work.
Tia responded with another message. "No, stop saying that happened or I will get a lawyer involved for slander." When Laura did not respond, Tia had a lawyer write up a cease and desist notice. "I'm sending your family a cease and desist letter with intent to sue if you continue to slander Caleb. This is a warning." When Hannah and Fontaine found out about Tia's texts, they reached out to her.
We asked Tia to hold off. We said, we should try to settle this peacefully first. We are friends with the Browns and they go to church with us. Let me and Dad try talking to the Browns and see what's going on and try to restore peace. And Tia said, okay, I will hold off sending the letter, but I think you are making a mistake. And I remember thinking, I hope she's wrong.
I was a quick, wet boy diving.
The Judds could not believe how ridiculous the rumors had gotten.
We knew from past experience that gossip can quickly get out of control and tends to, kind of take on a life of its own. So we needed to address this rumor immediately.
The Judds had previously not had any success trying to resolve problems with Sondra or Laura, so they opted to talk to Laura's father, Jared Brown. The Judds had reservations about approaching Jared for information. Sondra would frequently complain that he was somewhat simple-minded, and the Judds worried talking to him would just result in more misunderstandings. When they called, they began by asking Jared what rumors he had heard about their family.
I figured that I needed to talk to you, Jared, and find out what's going on, and talk to you directly.
Okay.
I didn't go into any specifics because I was actually hoping he would say he didn't know anything, or that he had heard some gossip, but none of it was true.
To the Judds' surprise, Jared immediately began telling a story about how one day Laura had gone to go visit Caleb at the Judd home.
Laura had run over to your home because Caleb was saying he was going to commit suicide or something.
Okay.
Sondra said the family's out of town right now. So I said, I am going to go over there. So she said, hold on, let me text her, tell her to come home right now.
Jared's story immediately did not sound right. We had never left Caleb home alone, nor had Caleb ever been suicidal. And when was that, roughly?
It was probably a week, maybe two, before Sister Judd, before you talked to Laura out in the parking lot at the church.
According to Jared, this supposed event had happened approximately a year and a half prior, a few weeks before Laura had asked to meet Caleb down at the pavilion to get his advice. The Judds asked for clarification on Jared's story because it did not make sense to them. Jared claimed on that day when Laura went to the Judd home, Caleb and Laura had gone up to Caleb's room.
She went in the room, Caleb was behind her, and he shut the door behind her. And she was kind of nervous. She was like, oh my gosh. She said she started going towards the door, and he pushed her and pushed her down on a bed.
And did what?
Pushed her down onto a bed and forced her onto a bed.
The Judds could not believe what they were hearing.
And so she was trying to push her leg, down or whatever, and she turned and pivoted and was able to kind of stop. And she, at that point, got up. He let her up a little bit, and she got up and she started walking out. He grabbed her again and pushed her on another bed. And then he did that one more time, and she was finally able to get out.
The Judds were astounded. The rumor was much worse than they originally thought. It was not about being a bad boyfriend, or even about assault like Tia had heard. The rumor was about sexual assault.
This wasn't your typical teenage gossip. This was serious.
And she was very upset. She laughed, and she said, Caleb, that was sexual assault, just so you know. She didn't want to say anything when she was in the house because she was too afraid. She just got out of there. And as soon as she got out, she said that.
The Judds were not sure what to make of Jared's story.
He confidently said that Caleb had sexually assaulted Laura. We only asked him if there were any rumors. We never said sexual assault or anything like that.
What in the world? It was a horrific rumor that could have all sorts of social and legal implications. This was bad. Why didn't she call the police?
I don't know. You know, Laura, she's very shy. She's a very timid girl. She wouldn't ever want to draw attention to herself, you know. So I felt like it, but I thought, well, we'll just call the bishop. So we called and let Bishop Holt know, Bishop, this is what happened. I don't know, my daughter told us this, right? And whatever, we left it up to him. And I don't know, it was my understanding that Caleb didn't pass the sacrament or whatever for a while. And so that's what I know about the sexual assault. That's all I know.
Fontaine kept asking questions to get more details because he did not think the story was adding up.
Was it a phone call with the bishop or was it an in-person meeting with the bishop? And who told the bishop what?
I think my wife texted or phone called. I can't remember. After that, I was pretty disturbed, and she didn't want me to do it, right, as the father. She thought I'd be too angry. But, you know, in my book, me and my boys did that. Holy cow, you know, hell would break loose.
Okay, so who's the one that talked to the bishop?
My wife did.
The Judds found it odd that Jared had not talked directly to Bishop Holt, or even his own daughter. All of his information was coming second-hand through his wife, Sondra.
Why didn't anybody call me?
I had suggested it at the time, well, why don't we just call Fontaine? But they didn't want to do it. So I talked to the bishop. He said he'd handle it. I assumed he'd already talked to you guys. I didn't know he'd never talked to you guys about it.
But it wasn't between me and the bishop. It was between your daughter and my son.
Well, in this situation, we talked to the bishop. He said, leave it up to me. I don't want you involved in this anymore. And we left it up to him.
Wait, the bishop said, I'm going to take care of it?
He said he'd take care of it.
He told that to your wife?
He told that to my wife.
But you never talked to the bishop?
I stayed out of it, and I let them deal with it.
Why, if this happened a year ago, why is Laura posting stuff on social media about this?
The Judds were not sure if Laura was the one who had posted the rumor on social media, or if it was another family member. But instead of answering Fontaine's question, Jared changed the subject to focus on Tia's texts from the previous day.
Got a text yesterday from Tia. She just had a miscarriage last night, and she gets this awful text from Tia to stop all this stuff. Lauren just miscarried her poor baby.
The Judds found it odd that Jared was bringing up a miscarriage at all. It had nothing to do with the situation at hand.
It came across that Jared was trying to make us feel bad that Tia had texted while Laura was miscarrying.
You didn't actually read the text conversation?
No, I didn't.
The Judds continued to ask more questions. They wanted to know who was spreading the rumors.
Laura got a text from Megan, a friend of hers from track. Megan was asking about Caleb. And the wording she said, Caleb put me in uncomfortable situations, and I wouldn't encourage my friends to date him, or whatever. And that's all I know about that. Lauren has never said anything about it to anyone. No one in my going around telling that. We talked to Sarah about it. She knows she's not to say anything about it.
She already has. I know for a fact it's coming from your household.
All that's going to happen is you're going to say, I know it's from you, and I'm going to say, I know it's not.
Well, who else would it have come from?
Jared did not have an answer to Hannah's question. Instead, he changed the topic.
And I can tell you, Laura has never lied to me in her entire life. I have never heard her ever lie to me. She's the one I can always count on because she doesn't lie.
Okay.
She never lies. Like her mom. She doesn't deceive you. And that's how Laura is. So
He said that about his
he
wife.
was not happy about sharing it. He wasn't like,
But
oh, I
she
gotta
does
tell you
lie.
the story.
The Judds had called to find out what the rumor was, and to their disappointment, Jared had not only told them the rumor, but also confirmed it was coming from his family.
I appreciate the call. I realize that you're busy, and I really do appreciate your time. I have some more calls to make, it sounds like.
Well, thank you.
Okay, we'll talk soon.
Okay.
Okay, bye-bye.
After they hung up the phone, the Judds were not entirely sure what to think.
Jared claimed that Laura was scared of Caleb after this sexual assault. But if that was true, why was she trying to be with him so much during the 2 weeks afterwards? And why was Laura so sad and distraught when I told her their relationship was over and she couldn't see Caleb anymore?
Hannah and Fontaine did not understand why Jared had not called them, the bishop or the police, when he found out about the supposed sexual assault.
After that, I was pretty disturbed. In my book, me and my boys did that. Holy cow. Hell would break loose.
So apparently Jared was so angry about this, he did absolutely nothing. That wasn't adding up.
The Judds also wondered why Jared denied that he and his family were the ones spreading the gossip.
All that's going to happen is you're going to say, I know it's from you, and I'm going to say, I know it's not.
Jared was either lying or didn't have his facts straight. Because in one breath, he was telling us there was no way the gossip could possibly be coming from his family.
Lauren has never said anything about it to anyone.
But then in the next breath, he was telling us how he had told his 14-year-old daughter, Sarah, but sworn her to secrecy. And also that Laura had only told one close friend from school.
Why did Sandra tell me that Jared didn't want to talk to me or resolve things when I had approached her previously?
My wife, she didn't want me to do it.
Tia was anxious to know what was going on. She knew the damage false rumors could cause, and that they needed to get resolved quickly or they would get worse. Fontaine explained how he had talked with Jared, who claimed nobody from his family was spreading rumors. Tia responded, "Yikes, Dad. If they personally think these accusations are accurate, they should go to the police, not the Smiths, the Powells, the Jordans, etc." Fontaine agreed. If the Browns truly believed the rumors, they would have done something about it, which tells me they know these accusations are false. The Judds asked Tia to refrain from sending the cease and desist letter until they had a chance to talk to Caleb and Bishop Holt, and Tia agreed. That evening, the Judds called Caleb and told him they found out what the rumor was. They summarized Jared's story, that Caleb had brought Laura up to his room one day and tried to sexually assault her when they were alone together.
And he was like, wait, what? What is Brother Brown talking about? That never happened. Brother Brown's story is not true. I've never sexually assaulted anyone, and I've certainly never sexually assaulted Laura. She was one of my best friends.
Caleb was really confused. He said Laura had only ever been in his room one time. He said he had been giving her a tour of the house because she had never seen it, and he and Laura ended up getting in a tickle fight on his bed. He wasn't home alone, and they were only in the room for a couple of minutes, and he said after the tickle fight, they got up and left.
As soon as my son said the word tickle, I knew I had heard this somewhere before. I knew I hadn't heard it from Caleb, and I knew I hadn't heard it from his girlfriend Laura because she was very quiet and she usually just kind of stared at people and didn't talk. I had actually heard it from Sandra. She told me about the tickle fight to prove to me that Caleb and Laura were good kids and they were good for each other.
After the call with Caleb, the Judds realized what had happened.
When Sandra Brown made the veiled threat that this tickle fight could be perceived as sexual assault, it wasn't a threat, it was a promise. She made good on that promise.
The Judds were having a hard time believing what Sandra had done. But what the Judds found even more concerning was that Jared was stating it as if it were fact, even though it did not make sense logically.
Jared Brown told the dramatic story about how his daughter Laura courageously fought off Caleb 3 times and then outran him to her car. There is no way a 100-pound borderline anorexic girl fought off a 200-pound linebacker who was arguably the strongest and one of the fastest kids at his school. It just wasn't possible. Only an idiot would believe that story.
The Judds then compared Laura's behavior with that of their own daughter, Tia.
It was abundantly clear that Tia had all the symptoms of sexual trauma. Her behavior changed. It became bizarre. She started having panic attacks. She suddenly became angry at everybody, especially her family. She began wearing frumpy clothes and having poor hygiene, including urinating in bottles and hiding them around her room, and making suicidal gestures and self-medicating, drinking alcohol, and running away from home. I was keenly aware of what the symptoms were for sexual trauma.
Unlike Tia, Laura did not have any of the symptoms of sexual trauma.
She wasn't suddenly lashing out at family and friends or wearing frumpy clothes or engaging in self-harm or self-medicating with alcohol or over-the-counter drugs. She wasn't running away from home. No.
There is no evidence of Laura ever being sexually traumatized because she wasn't. It never happened.
The Judds also noted that Laura clearly was not afraid of Caleb.
If Laura was so scared of Caleb, why did she refuse to break up with him? And then when I found them meeting behind the church, why was she so distraught and doing the whole dramatic, goodbye, Caleb? Like, that doesn't sound like someone who's living in fear of sexual assault.
Compare that with Tia, who claimed that Jacob Richard had sexually assaulted her, and she hated him. She refused to go to church if he was there. She said she got physically ill when she was around him or saw him. She even flipped him off during sacrament meeting. She certainly wasn't fawning all over him and spending every waking moment with him and sneaking off to be with him alone.
It appeared that Sandra had twisted an innocuous event into a dramatic story of sexual assault. She told this story to her family, who then spread the gossip to others. Despite ample evidence showing Sandra's story was not true, the Judds were still having a hard time believing her motives were malicious.
That's really low. To try to destroy a teenage boy like that just because you're angry? There's no way. It must be a mistake somewhere or a misunderstanding.
After the Judds talked to Caleb, they texted Tia with another update. Today I will call the bishop and get his side of the story. I'm guessing he will debunk most of what Jared said. Bishop Holt is a good, honest man. Plus, Elder Oaks, the Elder Oaks, said so. He talked with Mom and told her that our bishop, Bishop Holt, is a good man. So there's that. We won't have Logan Shepherd issues this time, hopefully.
I figured the situation would get handled quietly and quickly. Once the church got involved, that was it. The truth will come out, and this little mishap would go away pretty fast.
That following Monday, the Judds signed up for legal protection.
We had been burned before. We had been falsely accused and didn't have proper representation. So we opted to pay a monthly fee for access to a legal team. Yes, it was expensive, but not nearly as expensive as not having legal protection.
All right, Mohammed. We're gonna tuck this in your shirt so I won't get your shirt wet.
In the phone call with Jared Brown, Jared had claimed the bishop had disciplined Caleb.
We left it up to him, and I don't know, it was my understanding that Caleb didn't pass the sacrament or whatever for a while.
So the Judds called Bobby Jameson, the former Young Men leader, to verify. They also made an appointment to meet with Bishop Holt the following Tuesday. In the church, leaders have the responsibility to read the scriptures and pray, and by so doing can obtain inspiration for the members of their congregations.
Brother Jameson said he wasn't aware of any problems with Caleb, nor was he aware of any discipline any time that he had been restricted from blessing or passing the sacrament. And Brother Jameson was in charge at the time. He would have known.
I'm going to hold it?
Here.
Like that?
Yep.
Okay. Now, if your brains leak out, I will tell him to stop, okay?
Sorry. I'd be lucky I got it up.
You got it out?
Yes, ma'am.
There it is. There's the feed. He got it.
Wait, is it in there? Oh, wow.
Oh, it's
Wait.
the letter K.
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has an organization similar to the military in that there is a distinct chain of command. It starts with the local leaders, which includes the bishop, the stake president, and the area authority. Then it moves to the general authorities, which include the Area 70, the Presidency of the 70, the 12 Apostles, and finally the First Presidency. When there is a problem, it gets resolved at the lowest level possible, and there is a specified process for doing so. If the conflict is between individuals in a congregation, the first step is to try to resolve it privately, only including the people involved. If that does not work, then the next step is to take it to the bishop and let him be the judge. He has a duty and an obligation to judge in issues that involve members of his congregation. If he is unable to resolve the issue, the next step is to involve the stake president, who has the same duty to be a judge. If that is unsuccessful, the problem continues to get sent up the chain of command, even to the First Presidency if necessary, in order to get it resolved. So, on Tuesday evening, about a week after the odd phone call with Jared Brown, Hannah and Fontaine drove to the church to meet with Bishop Holt. Fontaine was prepared to take careful notes of what was said.
I knew and trusted Bishop Holt, and so I thought it was silly that we were being so cautious. I thought, oh, maybe my husband's being a little paranoid.
The situation was serious enough. Fontaine was not taking any chances.
Judith Ezamora kept coming to mind, that CPS worker who had come over to my home after the whole fiasco at the park. She told us she could tell that we were good Christian parents and that clearly there was no abuse going on in our home. But then, a couple months later, she totally reversed her story and denied ever saying that and literally convicted us of child abuse. Logan Shepard had done something similar, and so had Ned Telford. The initial meeting with them would go well, and then they would flip, do a 180, and totally turn on us.
A winter's day.
Fontaine started the meeting by explaining to Bishop Holt that he and Hannah were simply on a fact-finding mission. They were there to gather information.
Bishop Holt started off the meeting by telling us that basically none of what Jared had told us was true.
Jared Brown had claimed that his wife had talked to the bishop, and that the bishop had agreed to handle the situation.
Wait, the bishop said, I'm going to take care of it?
He said he'd take care of it.
He told that to your wife?
He told that to my wife.
Bishop Holt, however, stated he had not been contacted by the Browns.
Did Sandra come and talk to you? Like, maybe say, hey, I'm really mad the judge did such and such, or Caleb did such and such, or...
I do not remember Sandra ever coming to me.
Anything regarding their relationship?
No, I don't remember anything. I've never heard of anything. I don't think any of the young men leaders have ever heard of anything. No one else has come to me.
Bishop was very adamant that this is the very first time he had ever heard of this. He repeated that statement multiple times.
They're claiming that their daughter was sexually assaulted. At the time of this...
They've never, ever said that. Both Sandra and Jared have never said she was sexually assaulted.
That's what they're claiming.
The judge explained their concern that allegations of sexual assault could damage Caleb's reputation later in life.
Let's fast forward 5 years, and she accuses Caleb of sexually assaulting her when she was younger. And all of a sudden, another girl who heard the same rumor from now, and another ward goes, I heard the same thing from so-and-so. And all of a sudden, now he's got allegations. As a 25-year-old adult, those stick.
The judge recognized that Bishop Holt was unaware of their background.
We had nearly lost one child due to gossip. After Logan Shepard and Gavin Fish's daughter and Janie and Bob Martell and all those rumors, Tia wanted nothing to do with the church. For several years, she hated the church.
Those same rumors had gotten so bad, it had chased us out of our previous ward and stake. We knew the rumors wouldn't go away on their own if we just let it go. I had already tried following that counsel the previous summer when I told the bishop that Sarah was spreading some sort of rumor. And that didn't work. That didn't solve the problem, and in fact, it had gotten worse since then.
In an attempt to help the bishop better understand, Hannah gave an example.
Okay, let's say you were accused of sexual assault. Somebody was saying, oh, yeah, Bishop Holt, he sexually assaulted a lady when you would want that cleared up.
Yeah.
So my question is, at some point, did Sister Brown come to you and say, hey, this happened to my daughter?
No.
Okay.
So you don't remember Jared coming in and talking?
Jared has never talked to me.
Okay.
Bishop Holt stated that neither Laura nor her sister Sarah had ever expressed any concerns about Caleb either.
And Laura, same thing. What about Sarah?
Sarah.
Did Sarah ever come in and say,
No.
Caleb and Laura were, no, I saw it?
No, Sarah never has.
The bishop explained that not a single member of the Brown family ever contacted him about Caleb or any problems regarding him. It made the judge wonder why Jared was claiming Sondra had talked to the bishop. Either Jared truly believed it, or he was lying to cover for Sondra. The judge also wondered why nobody in the Brown family took any action after the supposed sexual assault.
If the sexual assault story was true, why didn't the Brown family do anything about it? Ever. They didn't call the police. They didn't talk to the bishop. They didn't reach out to us. Nothing. That makes no sense.
Bishop Holt explained that he never had any concerns about Caleb.
Did Caleb come to you and say, hey, I really messed up and I need help? Or did you ever tell him, hey, you know what, you should be blessing the sacrament for a year? Or you know,
oh, no, never anything like that.
You should be taking the sacrament for the next few months?
No. Caleb, he talked to me a lot. He was one of the great, humble young men that I've worked with.
To be thorough, the judge asked Bishop Holt about the church hotline. In the church, bishops are mandated reporters. Whenever there is a crime or legal issue, bishops are required to call the hotline to report it and get legal advice.
Did you ever feel like you needed to get the authorities involved with Caleb?
No.
What about Laura?
No.
Never at all? You never felt like, oh, I need to call the hotline? Did you ever call the hotline?
No.
So you never even got to the point of calling the hotline, let alone filing a report or anything?
No, not at all.
The bishop did not understand why the judges were making such a big deal out of a rumor that was obviously false. He suggested the judge should just drop the matter because the rumors would not impact Caleb.
He'll move on in his life, and it's not going to affect him from a legal or spiritual standpoint, his standing in the church. It won't affect him legally, career-wise.
The judge thanked the bishop for his time and told him, now that they had more information, they were going to try again to resolve the issue privately with the Browns.
Thanks, Bishop. Good night.
Good night.
What happened?
I put my hand in the garbage can, and the girl came right down and cut me.
There was glass in the garbage can that cut you?
Yeah.
Okay, more numbing medicine.
You can squeeze my hand now. Look his hand. Squeeze.
With their new understanding of the situation, the judge messaged Jared Brown. They asked to meet with him and his wife and daughter, explaining that they had gathered more information. I think we can resolve things with the least amount of embarrassment if we limit the people involved. A couple days later, Jared messaged back saying he and his wife were not interested in meeting. The judge found his reasoning odd. Jared said, "It is also very difficult for us to feel a sense of forgiveness if there are those around us who are not forgiving and reliving our sins by bringing them up in any way."
Translation: he didn't want to meet because it would be too hard for him to move on if we were bringing up or talking about any of his family's past mistakes. It sounded very much to me like he was admitting guilt, that his wife had lied and that his family was spreading rumors, but that he just didn't want to deal with it.
The judge still thought it was a good idea to resolve the gossip, so they sent an email to the Browns.
I knew that Sondra Brown sometimes worked as a nurse assistant cleaning wounds, and so I compared the current situation to a small wound. I said the best way to help a cut heal was to clean it out and bandage it up. It's uncomfortable cleaning an infected wound, but it's the best chance to help the wound heal properly. If, on the other hand, you ignore the wound and never clean out the dirt, the chance of it getting seriously infected, spreading, and getting worse is much higher. I said we needed to sit down, talk it through, and clean up the wound. It wasn't a guarantee that things would heal up, but it gave us the best possible chance.
What do you think, Lumpy?
Good. I think that I'm good.
The Browns did not respond. That Sunday, when the Judds went to church, Jared Brown was conducting the meeting. Fontaine found it frustrating to watch, knowing Jared was falsely accusing Caleb of sexual assault, but refusing to even discuss it or try to work it out. The Judds had previously told the bishop they did not need his help, but when the Browns refused to meet yet again, they decided it was time to involve him. Hannah emailed Bishop Holt and asked for help mediating, but he also did not respond.
I'm only one call away.
Not long after learning about the message from Laura's husband, the Judds had a disturbing conversation with their daughter.
Tia sent me a text about being suicidal and buying a gun. So I called and talked to her for about an hour and a half. She was in bad shape. She was crying and beside herself. She was saying stuff like, "We've gone through so much and it's just not stopping and it's not going to stop." And she couldn't take it anymore.
She said she was done. She was giving up. She was extremely depressed, and she said nothing she was doing was helping. She said she had bought a gun and she planned on killing herself that day. She said she had cleaned out her car, that she was going to leave her keys in there and leave it in a place where it could be found. And she said, I want you to use the money for the car to pay for the mess that I made when I was at home.
As soon as Tia mentioned cleaning out her car and giving away her possessions, Hannah and Fontaine got worried.
She had made suicidal gestures in the past, and those were awful, but this one felt different, and we were worried we were about to lose our daughter.
I told her if she were to hurt herself, it would do more damage than she could possibly imagine. I told her, your family, Dad and I, we would never recover. It would hurt her parents, it would hurt her brothers and sisters, it would hurt all her friends. But she wouldn't listen. She said, "Mom, I've made up my mind." And she hung up the phone, and I kept calling back, but she wouldn't answer.
Hannah and Fontaine began to panic.
I felt so helpless, and I didn't know what to do. There was nothing I could do. And so my husband and I said a prayer.
Dad.
All of these lines across my face tell you the story of who I am. So many stories of where I've been, and now I got to where I am. But these stories don't mean anything when you've got no one to tell them to. It's true, I was made for you. I climbed across the mountain top